Welcome back to another edition of Let's Play WCW 2000. We have officially ended the month of February and are now on the road to Uncensored in 2 weeks, live on pay-per-view. And just so it's not a surprise, you can see some of the matches that I have planned for that event. And as you notice, the world title match is yet to be decided because I'm yet to decide who I want to put in the number one contender match, which will take place next week on Nitro, and plays into this right here where the mouse is right now. So now, without further ado, let's jump right into this week's episode of Monday Nitro. We kick off the first episode of Nitro following Night of the Legends last night, where we saw Scott Steiner retain the WCW World Heavyweight title, Jeff Jarrett defeat Road Warrior Animal, and the Outsiders defeat Harlem Heat in the rematch from from Mayhem. And it seems like the NWO is standing tall, but there's one thing that they have yet to address, and that is Bret Hart's issue with Hulk Hogan. And that's where Hulk Hogan comes out, and, well, basically because it's Hulk Hogan, and one of the only things that you can see, I let Hulk have this segment and basically talk about the issue with Bret Hart and discuss how he wants a world title shot against Scott Steiner in 2 weeks at Uncensored. And Bret Hart looks at Hogan and said, "Hulk, you may think you deserve it, but if you get in the ring with Big Papa Pump, you won't go on a temporary retirement, because Scotty will end your career." And then Hulk takes over, and he takes a shot and says, "What, like Goldberg ended yours? Or how you almost ended his?" And now Bret Hart's fuming because Hogan did a shoot. He mentioned how Goldberg's kick gave Bret Hart a concussion at Starrcade 1999 and basically ended the career of the Hitman right then and there. Yes, I know that isn't a good idea to mention, but because Goldberg is not coming back for at least another 2 or 3 months, mentioning it once at this point is not a big deal, because at this point people still remember how to be fans. Don't mind Siri. I don't know why she's coming on. As we move forward, also, I just wanted to mention about that first segment. The main event is announced that Scott Hall will face Hulk Hogan in the main event tonight on Nitro. And now we move forward as Dr. Death Steve Williams once again steps up against the tough man of WCW, and Dr. Death Steve Williams is victorious against Big T in this one, as Big T continues to disappoint. And, I mean, I don't want to say Dr. Death is stupendously overcoming expectations, and that he's not right on expectations, but still, I mean, I expected more from Ahmed Johnson. And now we go backstage, where Hulk Hogan's preparing for the main event, and we hear Booker T and Stevie Ray come in to Hulk's locker room, and they talk about the NWO and their problems with the NWO. You know, Hulk's problems with Bret Hart, and Harlem Heat's problems with the Outsiders, and Booker T and Stevie Ray tell Hulk that we all know that You're not versing Scott Hall tonight. You're versing Scott Hall, you're versing Kevin Nash, Jeff Jarrett, Scott Steiner, and Bret Hart. You're versing all 5 members of the NWO. So, we just came here to tell you, Hulk, we got your back. You ain't versing them alone. We're your reinforcements. Hulk extends his hand and says, "Thanks, brother. Thanks, brother. Brother. I'm morphing into a combination of the Hulk Hogan and the Macho Man. Now we move forward, and Norman Smiley successfully defends his TV belt against Vampiro, and then we go to the post-match promo segment with Mike Sanders and Norman Smiley as they talk about Eddie Guerrero, and they both say, "You people boo us, yet you cheer people who cheat. People who unfairly take advantage of opportunities. People who don't know when to give up. Eddie Guerrero cheated last night at Night of the Legends, and that's why he beat me and Norman Smiley, not because he actually beat us. He cheated to win. It was a fluke. And that if we got in the ring with him again, he sure as hell wouldn't be lucky twice. He sure as hell wouldn't be that lucky twice. I can guarantee it." We go to commercial break, and then when we come back, Gene Okerlund is standing in the ring, and he calls out his guest at this time, the WCW Commissioner, Terry Funk. And Gene asks Terry about what happened last night between Terry Funk and Bam Bam Bigelow and their backstage brawl. And Terry Funk says, "Everything, the months of Bam Bam Bigelow provoking me, finally was enough. I was sick and tired of sitting on my hands doing nothing. Bam Bam wants me in the ring that bad. Well, Bam Bam, you got it. Terry Funk is back in the ring and back as an active wrestler." "But Terry, what about your commissionership? Because you always said that the reason why you didn't want to get back in the ring is because you didn't want to lose the ability to be commissioner." "That's the other thing, and you'll find out about that later tonight. But I'm not going to say anything else other than this. Bam Bam, you want to lay out the challenge to me? Well, you're not doing it this time. I'm laying out the challenge to you. Terry Funk, Bam Bam Bigelow, WCW Hardcore title, and uncensored in 2 weeks. On pay-per-view. You wanted it. Now you're going to get it." Terry Funk shows just how aware, I guess you could say, he is by then working a match to work off some of the ring rust because he hasn't competed thus far this year against Rocco Rock, as Rocco Rock came on as a one-night deal. And now we actually see Scott Steiner and Madeja leaving the arena. That's right, the WCW World Champion is leaving the arena during the show. What the hell's going on? Especially put because of the fact that NWO 2000 Scott Hall will be in action in the main event, but Scott Steiner will not be here to see it. You gotta wonder if possibly Steiner's just leaving the party with Madeja and take the night off. But I don't think anybody would be stupid enough to ask the Big Bad Booty Daddy directly why he's leaving in the middle of the show, but it is definitely questionable exactly why Scott Steiner is leaving right in the middle of the broadcast. And now the start of the feud between the Harris Brothers and the Varsity Club begins tonight as the Varsity Club and the Harris Brothers go to a draw in their tag team match tonight because when the ref lost control and stopped the match, Basically, this is my way of, well, nothing's really going on with the Filthy Animals right now, the tag team champions, because I'm waiting for a tag team to come back, because one half of a tag team is injured, and they're the next challengers for the Filthy Animals, and that this is basically, in a way, possibly setting up number one contenders for the tag team titles. Future number one contenders. And also giving both teams something to do. Even though it's not technically a feud. Alright. Once again, we come back from commercial. Gene Okerlund is standing by in the ring with Jeff Jarrett. Jeff Jarrett comes out to the ring. And Gene asks, Jeff, do you have any idea why Scott Steiner actually just left the arena? Gene, it is none of your damn business what the world champ does, because the world champ does what the world champ wants to do. He knows that we have the fort held down tonight as far as Hulk Hogan goes, and that there is nothing to worry about. So he went with Malaysia to celebrate his victory last night over the man, Ric Flair. You see, Nature Boy, I didn't only distract you last night because of the fact that I wanted my buddy Steiner to keep the world title. I distracted you because I don't want you having the world title. Because at this point in your career, it should be getting to the point where you're thinking about hanging it up and not being at the top of this company anymore. And even though the original incarnation of the NWO couldn't end your career, the New Age NWO will end your career, because we're just too sweet. I hope you enjoy these more in-depth promos. I hope you're enjoying it. Now we slide forward as David Finlay goes up against CM Punk. The reason for this is one sole purpose. I was sick and tired of hearing all negative stuff about people on the show, because if you know anything about this game, especially this game, sometimes after shows, and very often after shows actually, main eventers and upper mid-carders actually send you their opinion based on some talent. And I wanted to see if putting CM Punk in a match on Nitro would actually get something good, opinion-wise, to come out of a Nitro, as opposed to the normal bullcrap that I get on Nitro about people lacking charisma, people basically sucking, nobody actually saying anything positive about people. And yes, this is CM Punk's Nitro debut, as he's only competed this far on the B shows. But either way, we move forward as Sid Vicious defeats Conan, basically because I realized how poorly I was using Sid Vicious, and that he could be an asset to the company still, at least for now, until I feed him to Goldberg when Goldberg comes back. So that's why I gave him the win, because I'm actually half tempted to, I'm trying to keep him credible, I guess is what I'm saying. Now, I'm going to stretch your imagination. If you remember back in the day, WCW would actually have a segment on Nitro called On the Road with Lee Marshall, where Lee Marshall would call in to the announce table during the show and basically be on the road in the next place that in the place that Nitro was going to be next week, as a part to indirectly build up the show, but build up the show in a different way. This is basically the same thing, but instead, it's a little bit like Gene Okerlund's Hotline, where JB is calling in and report, where basically they go to like an interview position or something like that, or maybe a pre-recorded comment or whatever. But either way, it's a segment of the show where JB delivers us news, and the news that JB delivers is that next week the new authority figure will be announced on Nitro. And the person is replacing Terry Funk as commissioner of WCW. And will not be an active wrestler. So that means Ernest the Cat Miller is out as the possible authority figure. And now we move forward to the main event. Hulk Hogan versus Scott Hall. And I will say this, that I believe that this may have been the best main event yet since I started working in WCW, but due to the declining physical abilities of both men, it didn't get as good as it could have. But either way, it did get really good, and that doesn't say much that an 83 is by far one of the best ratings I've gotten since I started in WCW. But either way, here Hulk Hogan defeats Scott Hall in the main event, his second main event on Nitro since returning from his temporary retirement. But that doesn't end there, because the NWO members attack Hulk Hogan following the match, but are run off when Harlem Heat comes out for the save, and Nitro goes to black with Hogan and the Harlem Heat having a face-off with the New World Order. And it looks like Hogan may have some friends. Things are getting interesting as we move to Uncensored, because the intrigue is there. Is Bret Hart still able to wrestle? Are we going to see a future match between Bret Hart and Hulk Hogan? Well, to find that out, you gotta keep watching, because I'm not gonna let that slip. Because remember, I didn't let Bret Hart keep working. The first show, I ran the angle where Bret Hart passed out on that first episode of Nitro in January 2000. And then 2 weeks later, Bret Hart was done. And I ran a tournament for the WCW World Heavyweight title that Scott Steiner won. So, technically, Bret Hart, I cut out about maybe 2 weeks of activity, but also about 4 or 5 matches for Bret Hart that he had in real life WCW. But either way, this is how the show ends, with Harlem Heat and Hulk Hogan having a face-off with NWO 2000. Now let's see what the show got us. A 79, and for once, I may actually be confusing it with another Let's Play, but we actually did not lose or gain popularity, and though we did not gain popularity, it's still a good show because at least we didn't lose any. And it was a 79 overall rating, which I think may have been one of the better shows we've done in a while. But once again, I could be confusing it with another Let's Play, because I do have other Let's Plays and other personal seasons that I could be confusing it with. But either way, a really good show to kick off the month of March as we head to Uncensored. The only question is, what does the future hold for the feud between the NWO, Harlem Heat, and Hulk Hogan now that they're attached at the hip to each other? What does that mean for next week on Nitro? And also, will we get an answer for why Steiner left during the show? And if that wasn't all, our first match is set, finally, in 2 weeks' time at Uncensored. Bam Bam Bigelow will get his wish and face the hardcore legend Terry Funk in a hardcore title match in 2 weeks' time at Uncensored. And if you needed another reason to stay tuned to watch next week's episode of Nitro, I can guarantee you that the announcement of the new authority figure will be an announcement that you don't want to miss. Because it will indeed kick off next week's episode of Monday Nitro. With all that being said, I want to hear from you. Let me know down in the comment section below what you think of the series so far. And are you intrigued about the developing feud between Bret Hart and Hulk Hogan? And do you think that it should lead to a match between Bret Hart and Hulk Hogan, or do you think that Bret Hart should stay retired? Let me know that on the comment section below, but if you don't want to leave a comment, you can always leave a like, and subscribe to the channel for more content just like this that you can only find right here at Wrestling Express. Till next time, later.